Morning, everybody. How you doing? Sorry about that. Absolute disaster start to the show. As soon as I press the go button, the internet collapses on me once again. You can tell what sort of day it's going to be when you wake up or just before you go to bed, you find out that Uncle Joe has been indicted. And I don't know what to say apart from I'm not really that surprised. And we're going to kind of go through as much information is out about it as possible, pending the internet continues to survive. I don't know. I mean, you know what? I'm going to dial down my internet definition or my definition from super high def to high def. And let's see if that helps. I apologize in advance if it struggles again, guys. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But anyway, how are you? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. Please smash the like button for me on the video. Smash the subscribe if you haven't already. I might need to get someone on the show with me just so they can handle it if the internet drops. Let me see if I can just quickly put a message out to someone, see if they can come on and just handle just in case. Give me 2 seconds, guys. Let me see if Bazza's around. Bazza, are you okay to join me? Let's see what happens. Anyway, guys, how you doing? Let's get straight into it, shall we? At the risk of also getting immediately demonetized and copywritten, I don't know if I'm going to be allowed to show this video, but I'm going to show it anyway. Let's see what happens. Let's roll the dice. Then I'm going to say hello to everybody in the chat. And then after that, I am going to... Oh, he's here. That's superb. Well done, Ranj, mate. Come of the hour, come of the man. How you doing?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Dude, the second I went live, I was like, come on the internet. And then just as like 20 seconds to go before the show's before the countdown finishes. Yeah, appreciate you, mate. Appreciate you coming on. Listen, we're going to try and figure it out. Let me start by showing what came out at about 11:30 last night, which caught us all off guard a little bit. Let's start with this.
Today I'm announcing that my office, the Southern District of New York, has indicted Joe Lewis, the British billionaire, for orchestrating a brazen insider trading scheme. We allege that for years, Joe Lewis abused his access to corporate boardrooms and repeatedly provided inside information to his romantic partners, his personal assistants, his private pilots, and his friends. Those folks then traded on that inside information and made millions of dollars in the stock market, because thanks to Lewis, those bets were a sure thing. Now, none of this was necessary. Joe Lewis is a wealthy man. But as we allege, he used inside information as a way to compensate his employees or to shower gifts on his friends and lovers. That's classic corporate corruption. It's cheating, and it's against the law. Laws that apply to everyone, no matter who you are. That's why Joe Lewis has been indicted and will face justice here in the Southern District of New York. Thank you.
So, pretty impactful stuff, pretty serious stuff. I'm going to come straight out and say it. We're going to read through a couple of news articles about this. The response from Tottenham Hotspur, the response from the lawyers that Joe Lewis has employed. We're going to go through what I believe to be, and Nick, I don't know if you have any thoughts on this as well, but I'll get your thoughts as well, obviously, on what I believe to be the direct consequences on Tottenham Hotspur and the indirect ones regarding the future environment. What I would also say is there was obviously back in October a change in significant ownership, persons with significant control, which we spoke about at the time. A lot of speculation was what's going on. Why is that? Why have the lawyers of a family trust been put in charge? Look, these things don't happen overnight. I promise you, I've been in the financial industry. Well, I was in the financial industry for 10 years dealing with situations where I saw insider trading happening on a daily event, but I also saw colleagues, or not colleagues, kind of industry colleagues, if you like, from different places talking about people getting scrutinized for various insider trading activities that they may or may not have been up to And these things take months. So there's every likelihood that the possibility of why Tottenham changed their ownership structure was because Joe Lewis was made aware of an investigation into him. These things do not happen immediately, and it's very difficult to keep these sorts of things quiet. People obviously know people. When the higher up the food chain you go, everyone knows everyone who can get access to information. So, look, I'll start with, well, let's start with, let's go to let's get the detail, and some of the detail has been written down here by the Daily Mail. Is it the Daily Mail that's got the good one that gives information on it? Hang on a second.
And well, all of them.
Yeah, the FT article this morning didn't have as much information on it. The Daily Mail is good enough. Obviously, the Daily Mail is not quite as reliable a source as the FT, but I feel like they're reading information off of the indictment, and I'm not going to go through the indictment, 29 pages of legal jargon. So I'm going to trust the Daily Mail. Said only stupid people ever. But let's presume that they're not going too far from the flying too far from the truth. And we'll start with Tottenham Hotspur majority owner Joe Lewis has been charged in the US with brazen insider trading. In a sensational development late on Tuesday night, federal prosecutors alleged that the 86-year-old passed on insider information as a way to compensate his employees or shower gifts on his friends and lovers. Tottenham have been approached for comment. In a dramatic statement delivered by video, US Attorney Damian Williams said, we've just heard what you said, so I'm going to skip ahead of that stuff, get past these things. In a statement released on Wednesday morning, Tottenham said, this is a legal matter unconnected with the club, and as such, we have no comment. Bahamas-based Lewis, founder of investment firm the Tavistock Group, has been charged with 12 charges, including securities fraud. He is also alleged to have loaned money to the people he is accused of tipping off, which is a whole separate side of securities fraud, by the way. Like if you're loaning money to people who can take advantage of your inside information, and as a consequence of you giving them the information to try and have a distance, distance yourself from their, like how many degrees of separation you have from that person, you loan that person money, that doubles down on an offense. So it's even kind of more kind of more abhorrent that you would do that and then also ask for the money back in a way that we're going to find out about in a second. Lewis is charged with 13 counts of securities fraud, each of which carries a maximum sentence of 20 years in prison, 3 counts of securities fraud, which carries maximum sentences of 25 years in prison, and 3 counts of conspiracy, each of which carries a maximum sentence of 5 years in prison. I'm pretty sure the conspiracy bit is where you're loaning money to help that person participate in the fraud. Lewis's lawyers, Skadden, Arps, Slate, Meager, and Flom, responded by, have I got the page up? I haven't. I'm sorry, I'm reading it off the screen without you even being able to read it with me. Sorry, guys, do apologize. I'm not with it this morning. I still feel like lousy. David M. Zorno said, the government has made an egregious error in judgment in charging Mr. Lewis, an 86-year-old man of impeccable integrity and prodigious accomplishment. Mr. Lewis has come to the US voluntarily to answer these ill-conceived charges, and we will defend him vigorously in court. The indictment consists of 29 pages. It alleges a pattern of behavior in which Lewis used his status as investor in a number of companies to give him control of board seats. He then placed associates there who it is claimed gave him inside information. Prosecutors say Lewis then illegally dished out that content between 2019 and 2021. So this is very recent, very, very recent, to a chosen few and told them to make money from it. Amid a swath of staggering detail, the indictment claims Lewis loaned 2 private pilots $500,000 each to purchase stock in a pharmaceuticals company, which he knew had received but not made public positive results from a clinical trial. Boss, this is a quote, this is from a text message. The boss is helping us out and told us to get ASAP. The one pilot texted a friend who he told to get involved. He would go on, the indictment states, to tell the friend about the loan and state that the boss has inside info and knows the outcome. He said, otherwise, why would he make us invest? Lewis is also alleged to have given the tip to a variety of others, including a friend with whom he had a romance, a poker associate, his girlfriend, and a personal assistant. After results were announced, the company stock shot up close to 17% in 24 hours, and those Lewis had informed are all alleged to have sold at a profit. I mean, listen, just quickly on this, like, it comes across as staggeringly inept to hand out that sort of information to people who then handed that information out to other people who left a paper trail saying, get involved, it's definitely going to happen, he knows the outcome, and then they bought it a day before the results came out and sold it 24 hours later. Like, that, in terms of like red flags, every single brokerage account anywhere in the world would absolutely 1,000,000% be triggered, have some sort of trigger that would say, look into that trade. This guy he's never dealt in anything like that amount of money, and he hasn't had that sort of success, yet he happens to know right when to buy and right when to sell 24 hours later. Like, it comes across like it is staggeringly stupid behavior. Like, there's ways that you can deal with inside information without really being obvious about it. Like, sometimes you take a hit. Sometimes you let, like, you see the profits and you let some of it go again. Sometimes you get involved early and then knowing that the stock's going to go down beforehand so that you can look like you're doubling down, knowing the outcome. There's so many ways that you can participate in those mechanisms if you so choose, and make it not leave a red flag paper trail. But this doesn't in any way look like it's coming from people that know how to do it, or that they've done it before very well. It's staggeringly obvious. Anyway, we continue. Among the other allegations is a third tip from Lewis on another pharmaceutical firm, which he was in talks to buy. The claim is that Lewis told his pilots and 2 personal assistants who were working on his 322-foot mega yacht to get in. A subsequent merger plan was made public and the share price rose. Lewis is also alleged to have learned through a board member he had placed that an Australian agricultural firm was set for losses following a monsoon. He then told the pilots to sell, but they were unable to do so before the information became public knowledge. In quotes, just wish the boss would have given us a little earlier heads up. My word. That is staggeringly poor. Like, if you're going to be a criminal, don't be a bad one. And it goes on. But in a nutshell, it looks like he's obviously chosen the wrong people to hand this information to, and they've been a little bit too trigger happy, leaving paper trails. And first thoughts, mate, before we get into the legalities and the impact on Tottenham. Like, I mean, what's your thought? I mean, obviously we know about the Patagonia scandal with Joe Lewis anyway. Anyone who thought he was a good guy, there's no such thing as a good billionaire.
Yeah, and I think you're right, Sean. I think in terms of that, I think everyone is. If everyone thinks that the people that are rich got rich because they were nice, then they're very naive. Every person that has made lots of money, or millions, billions, whatever they've made, people who are chief executives of these companies at some stage have done something dodgy to either further their career or get them into a position where get them into a position where they hold this power and they have this. And I think, obviously I guess the only thing that I can compare it to is probably from watching a TV series, is something like Succession, where they control the whole media in America, and they will buy off and they will pay off, and they will be like, oh, how much to keep these people quiet? Something happens, then there's a scandal, then it's, do you know what I mean? So I guess unfortunately, this is the way that the world works, and the world is kind of going. But am I surprised? Nothing surprises me anymore with this football club. I think, obviously, look, in terms of them coming out from the Southern District of New York, they don't just come out with it because Barry's heard a rumor at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and he's made a phone call, and they suddenly come out with it, right? Obviously, you've had there was the information about what happened in October about the ownership and what that meant, and everyone thought, oh, he's just doing it because he's getting old and in case something happens. And then obviously they would have known about that in October. They're not just suddenly going to drop it and it happens now.
So on that, mate, what I would say is, so guys, look, I'll be entirely honest, right? Insider trading is absolutely rife. When I was at university back a long time ago, I had to do a dissertation, a 10,000 word report on something called the efficient market hypothesis. And that is an academics theory that basically assesses or asserts that hedge fund managers or day traders, whatever, on the presumption that all available information is accessible to all of the market at the same time in legal parameters, then it's impossible for any one particular person or one particular entity to outperform the market on a consistent and ongoing basis. And you have to spend 10,000 words explaining why that is the case or that isn't the case. In a nutshell, the reality is that there are people out there, hedge funds, private equity, trusts, day traders, etc., that all consistently outperform the market. That is the reason why hedge funds exist, is because people with money give them their money and will let them take a percentage of it or 2% of it because they expect those people to outperform the market that you could otherwise get by putting it into an index fund. The reason why these entire industries exist is because insider trading is rife. It's absolutely everywhere. The idea that Chinese walls, which is a term that means that people that have access to information in the same company as people that can't, they shouldn't be able to trade on it. It happens all day, every day. Did I expect anything less from Joe Lewis? No, I'm staggered by the ineptitude of how he's gone about it. But the other thing I wanted to quickly say was there's two major cases of giant fraud with regards companies in the last sort of 10, 15 years. One of them was a Ponzi scheme. Bernie Madoff, I don't know if you remember him, Nick. He was one of the greatest Ponzi schemes in recent American history. I think he basically defrauded his investors of 70, 80 billion. And there was also the Enron scandal. Enron was an energy firm that were basically manipulating prices in... I won't bore you with all this stuff, guys, but in a nutshell, both of those things fell apart. Everyone lost an absolute fortune, and there was indictments left and right for certain individuals. All of those individuals, as far as I can remember, it's been a long time since I looked into it, had moved their assets into family trusts before the floor fell in on the operation. And so Bernie Madoff's wife, for example, never lost a penny. She managed to keep hold of all the houses, all of the money that they had, despite Bernie Madoff going to prison. I think he died of a heart attack, he might have even hung himself, I'm not sure, like years later. But all of the money that he'd made wasn't taken, as far as I'm aware, by the family, because he'd moved it into irrevocable family trusts before the mess hit the fan. The same, I think, goes for the directors at Enron. And so the reason I'm telling you this is I think it does make sense, in my opinion, the timing of it. Why? Maybe it's coincidental, but I would imagine that there is a link to why he moved that stuff into the family trust back in October. And essentially what we need to worry about is how does it work with Tottenham? What are the impact, or are they indirect or direct? Directly, I don't think it has any impact on Tottenham at all, right? There's not going to be any situation where we have to, forego the stadium or any kind of fines that are going to get levied onto the Tottenham Hotspur companies, any of those companies, or even ENIC. Usually, generally speaking, these indictments are on the individual. He, of course, can face a bunch of different penalties. We've looked through it, but the penalties for insider trading from the SEC, as I say, you can get imprisonment up to 20 years, fines of up to $5 million per offence, being banned from serving as an officer or director of a public company, disgorgement of ill-gotten gains plus interest. So the only things that might be relevant to Joe Lewis are whether he is banned from being directors of any of the companies that he's involved in, with regards to Tavistock Group, with regards ENIC. Obviously, with regards to Tottenham, he's no longer a person with significant control. So I don't think there's anything that is going to be too impactful or too consequential there. Where I do think that there's indirect consequences is with regard the possibility of future dilution of ownership, the future investment, the future of certain priorities being made, focus on these things. We were wondering when that next 50 million quid was going to come in from the 150 that wasn't. Haven't heard much about that. Is that because that's suddenly now a distraction? It's bottom of his priority list. For what it's worth, Joe Lewis is not going to go to prison. He's 86 years old. There's absolutely no chance he's going to go to prison. He probably gets a slap on the wrist if he's found guilty, and maybe banned from trading or whatever. But at his age, with the amount of money he's got, it's more just an embarrassing situation than anything else, Nick, right?
Yeah, of course. And look, we obviously need to be very careful about what we say. And I know obviously people are going to be tying Lewis in with a certain other person that I'm not going to mention that we all know at the club, that he will be involved as well. But we cannot say that, and we cannot speak about that because it's not been proved. You would think, if you asked, like, with everything that happens, if you my kind of logic is, if you ask the man on the street, woman on the street, dog on the street, cat on the street, or whatever, I don't want to offend anyone. You ask someone on the street, how likely do you think that said person would know and be involved in this? I guess there would be a high proportion that would probably say yes. But I think with everything, we need to keep it on the point is it's on Joe Lewis.
I'd be amazed, mate. Like when those sorts of things happen, everybody that's within, 2 degrees of separation from him will have their accounts checked, will have their text messages checked. Remember that I think in America, and I'm sure there's a couple of Americans that are in the house. Let me know, but I'm pretty sure that New York is a one-way communication state. So I lived in New York, and I remember a situation where, like in the UK, for example, if you want to use a recording of a phone call in evidence, then both parties have to be made aware that the call might be recorded. I'm pretty sure in certain states in America, it's only a one-way consent, which basically means that if I wanted to have a phone call, if I was in New York and I wanted to have a phone call with someone else with the purpose of catching them out on saying something, then I could be recording the conversation and not need them to know. And so with that being said, if Joe Lewis has been investigated, and this is by the SDNY, so I'm pretty certain that all of his phone calls, all of the data, all of the text messages, everything will have been looked at, reviewed, as much as they possibly can. For them to have found out that a pilot's been texting his mate saying, the boss said get involved, like, that's not a text message that's been on Joe Lewis's phone. That's a text message on someone else's phone going out to someone else, right? And of course, again, this is all alleged, guys. So not that I think that anyone's watching this that's going to come on me, but like all of this is presumed allegations, not presumed guilt. But to me, like the point, I guess, getting back to Tottenham is anyone that's connected with Joe Lewis will be audited or will have had their stuff audited, and you'd imagine that there is nothing more to see there, or you'd hope not, with regards to Daniel Levy or Paratici or any of these people, right? You'd hope that stuff is all a different way. What the way it looks to me is that if it's all true, alleged, that Joe Lewis just doesn't want to pay his employees with his own money. Yeah. He'd rather pay them with information that he doesn't therefore have to pay out of his own pocket, which gives you some indication of the sort of generosity the guy likes to work with. What do you think, Nick?
Yeah, look, 100%, and I think you're right. I think it's and like it's been said, the conviction rate in the Southern District is 98%, right? So
yeah,
I know that obviously people have a lot of money. They can afford expensive lawyers and people to find loopholes and everything else. But look, I don't think this is going to be it's not going to be something that is fixed overnight. It's going to be a long drawn out process. We're going to hearing about it for a long time or what have you of what's happening. I think I'm kind of with you. I've looked at it. I've taken a step back and kind of looked at it and gone, I'm not sure it does what some people are thinking that it does. I don't think you're suddenly going to see the club. I mean, look, the club's up for sale for whatever the amount is or whatever the magic number is. There's no hiding that. I don't think all of a sudden it's going to lead to a fire sale. Someone's going to come in with 2 million. You could argue that obviously you've got QSI and you've got the other people was it Latimer Group or whatever it is that were interested in potential a takeover. I don't think you're suddenly going to then see, oh, why is Man United being sold? Did they know about this in Qatar and they're going to hold back and they're going to maybe buy Spurs and everything else? So I don't think it's going to lead to that as what some people will want. Obviously, it's going to lead to another debate of how, it's going to lead to more debates of all the people that were throwing mud at the protests, all the, because they, for whatever. And I get it, because people will see that they want that as a kind of a win and everything else. But I think more commercially it's going to do us damage, in particular with the NFL, because they don't like any heat and everything else coming onto them. I think that's where it's going to hurt us more than it is going to hurt us with what people potentially think it's going to be a quick fire
100%, mate. The NFL, from what I understand, having watched, what was that program? That program with you know what? It was about a movie star and all of his mates. And Ari Gold was the super agent. Entourage. From watching Entourage and in the final season or whatever, they wanted the NFL to come in, and he wanted to be in charge of the NFL. Any stink that exists around the person's character is a massively off-putting thing for potential NFL investment. So I 100%. I think someone in the chat saying a similar thing. Just quickly before I carry on, I forgot. Mia, thank you very much for the super chat. She's saying billionaire acts badly. What a shocker! Yeah, like I said, I think that it goes. Listen, and like I say, in the years that I worked in the financial industry, the amount of times, I'll be honest, like my dad told me from my very first day as a stockbroker or as an investment banker, my dad said, Sean, at some point you're going to have people coming up to you offering you lots of money to have like throwaway phones where you can text them with weird codes when a buyer's done or a seller's done. Do not do it. For the love of God, do not ever do it. Your reputation is the most important thing, far more than money in this industry. It took about 6 months before I had sharks around me saying, like from other companies saying, listen, I'll give you this if you do that. I never did it, but I know people that did, and vast majority of them got away with it. But the one or two that didn't, career over, locked up for 6 months or a year, lose a lot of their wealth, and reputation is important. So, like I say, I don't think you have to be a billionaire to get caught up in insider trading. The opportunities are always
and also you see it, and it's not, and this is by no means comparing, but in the world of work that I do, if I take a client out for dinner, if I, we go in and we buy the whole team a load of coffees and breakfast, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing it necessarily because it's a nice thing to do. I'm doing that because I potentially might need a favor in the future.
100%.
Do you know what I mean? And it's not, and that's not me saying, it's not me sitting there going, oh, I'm trying to do this and trying to do that. It's because we need to, for future proofing our business, we need to have information, and we need to know, everyone has contacts through whatever life they're in. They have contacts where they can pick up the phone and they can say, I've heard this. How true is it? Thank you very much. And everything else. And it happens to us and it happens against us. So we all there, and there's also things we have to sign a thing. If someone buys us a coffee, we have to declare it, because if then someone says, oh, this person spent £1,500 on coffees or what have you, you've accepted this coffee, I'll be like, I'm just accepting a coffee, mate. I'm not doing it because do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but you got to cover your tracks, right?
With everything with all of that, because it can be construed that you're being bought off, or you're trying to do favors and everything else. But this is obviously on a much larger scale, and people people say, oh, it doesn't go on it. It does go on it.
Mate, to be entirely honest, right? Like if he gave 500 grand loans and the stock went up 17%, right? They made about 80 grand each, right? And then had to repay the loan. Like, by the way, I don't even know how you just loan someone 500 grand anyway, like without having contracts. Like if I knew someone that was super wealthy and I just wanted to borrow money. I don't know how you can do that. I'm sure that there's gift giving taxation allowances and stuff that you can't really. Anyway, whatever. It is what it is. What I would say, guys, just quickly, there's 615 people in the house. We're going to be going for another 15 minutes, and then I'm going to be jumping off of this stream and getting straight into what we're really here to talk about today on the next stream, which is the Red City Sailors, or whatever they're called, the pub team.
The Lion City Sailors.
The Lion City Sailors, yeah. The pub team versus Tottenham Hotspur. Hopefully the game's going ahead. So I'm going to redirect straight from this stream when I close it off into the next one. Ranj, if you've got nothing to do, mate, I'd love you to join me for the preamble for that as well. We'll talk about that. So don't go anywhere. Please hit the like. Please hit the subscribe. Also, get over to Shellside Spurs. I'll make sure that the link is in the title as soon as we're done here. So just to kind of get away from Joe Lewis, right? It looks to me like Joe Lewis, he's not going to, like, to me, it just comes across as someone that's participating in stupid things to get around paying people's salaries, which for the guy to have as much money as he does, to feel like an 80 grand kicker here or there, which is what he made out, which is what those pilots did or didn't make out of it, allegedly, then I think that says a lot about the guy's character, that he'd rather not pay someone and would rather illegal, ill-gotten gains doing it. But ultimately, he's not going to go to prison. He might have his reputation kicked in the mud a little bit, but he's 86 years old. Well, I mean, it's largely irrelevant to him, I think, in the grand scheme of things. Where I do think it's relevant, and I think you agree, Ange, is that any investors now might be looking at Tottenham Hotspur and thinking, you got the Paratici stuff, right? Why did you hire Paratici when you knew this stuff was going on with him in the background? Yeah. You've got an owner that is willing to get involved, allegedly, in stupid behavior that reeks of amateurish ignorance on how to get away with that sort of stuff if you're going to do it. People that do hold reputation in high regard probably don't want to touch Tottenham with a barge pole. I don't know whether or not this sort of thing would affect the likelihood of Liberty Media Group getting involved. There's been a lot of suspected interest from them recently. I remember I told you guys before, a guy that I know at Goldman Sachs, his brother works in private equity, and he said to me, keep an eye out for a dilution of Tottenham Hotspur over the next 18 months, which I initially thought meant more of a cash injection, but that wouldn't be a dilution. That would be an accretion in value, because that's Daniel Levy or Enoch pumping money in to get more share ownership. So that's the opposite. So it wouldn't be that. It would be someone else, a third party coming in. I don't know if that now is going to be on the blocks, because why would that person want to come in and do business with a guy who's going to be watched and vetted within an inch of his life? And it also makes out, it also looks as though you put two and two together, and it looks like the changing of the ownership, the family trust thing, was in advance of this. So I don't know. It just, everything about Tottenham Hotspur right now stinks of poor preparation, lack of leadership, lack of direction. If I'm Ange Postecoglou, it's another headache that you don't want to have, right?
Yeah. Look, 100%. And look, Americanka, you put a question about, do you think the other, what did you say? Do you think the other streams are over blowing this? No, look, I haven't
seen other streams.
I haven't seen anything to make a comment on that. That's for them to do. It's, look, I wouldn't say I've changed my stance. I've just tried to, maybe with more information, you can have more of a balanced view. And I'm not saying these people aren't balanced, but if you are far in one camp or far in the other camp, potentially you're going to let that cloud your judgment. But yeah, going back to the whole commercial side. Look at Tiger Woods, when he had that car crash and everything else, and then the sponsors drop him. You see it in sport where they do something in their personal life, and then all of a sudden this sponsor drops, this sponsor drops, this sponsor drops, that sponsor drops.
Another great point, mate. That's a really great point.
Cinch, if you look at the shirt sponsor Cinch, that finishes this year. I think AIA goes until 2025 or 2026. So look, these are all questions that that they're probably waking up to, and they've got a corporate responsibility that says that they will, how's it going to affect them? I think the biggest I think the biggest one that's going to have the biggest impact is probably the NFL, because, like you said, Sean, they don't want to have any. They don't want to have any heat. They don't want to have any, noise towards them. And obviously, after the whole debacle of what happened with the pitch not being correct the last time that they came, it does. They could turn around and go, "We're going to rip it up, and then we're going to just go to Wembley."
It's crazy, mate. You make a really good point about the. Hi, Bugsy. You right? You make a really good point about the commercial contracts. Just quickly, Gary Wellesby. Listen, mate, it's all good. I don't know how serious it is. I'm just giving my own speculation, mate. Like we're all just kind of interpreting what we're seeing here. I could be well off. It could be massive, but to me, there's a massive difference between Bernie Madoff. He wasn't 86. I think he was 70 or something, but could be wrong again. Let me know if I haven't got the detail in front. But also, Bernie Madoff was responsible for defrauding tens of thousands of investors to the tune of tens of billions of dollars. Like all Joe Lewis has done, I say all he's done, is still breaking the law, but all he's done is 13 different, or whatever it was, is it 13 counts? I think they said 13 counts of individual insider trading. Still serious. You still can't do it. Maybe they want to send a message. And look, the SDNY for sure love a scalp, and they love to take down a big guy or whatever. But I just don't see the benefit. I don't see the likelihood of him going to prison. If he goes to prison, I don't care. Like, see you later, whatever. It doesn't bother me. You could make the same arguments though around, like, not that I want to get into the politics or anything, but you've seen recently the same people, the FDNY or the SDNY rather, striking deals with the likes of the president's son, who, broke gun violation laws and the potential bribery, all that stuff getting hushed, pushed under the rug. So I don't know if the SDNY would have a political angle here. I don't even know the politics of Joe Lewis, or if he's, annoyed the wrong people. And if so, maybe there's a higher likelihood. But to me, I'm just more worried about the consequences to Tottenham. And I don't think that I don't think there's any direct consequences, but indirectly, I think Rand just makes a really good point about maybe sponsorships not wanting to renew, and maybe potential investors that may have taken a look, maybe now thinking, I don't really want to get into bed with this guy.
Yeah, I mean, maybe this whole, we're sitting there, and again, it's surmising, and it's trying to throw something and see whether it sticks. But maybe this whole naming rights deal hasn't been going ahead because there was wind about it and other people knew about it. And do you know what I mean? I'm not saying for one moment that it could be, but that puts the naming rights, I guess, even further back, because now it's like, oh, by the way, do you want some naming rights for a club that's, involved or indirectly involved with someone that's there, that everything else and what have you. So look, I'm not an expert on finance. I'm not an expert on politics or law or anything else. I just think that we are, like Sean said, I think from what we've seen happen in the past is not great. I think for the people that have said our owners do things, in the right way, clearly we've been proven that they don't necessarily do it in the right way. And you can argue, is insider trading as bad as, killing people? That's not up for debate, because that's not what we're here to do. But, ultimately they've done wrong. It's either, it's either right or wrong in my eyes. It's black or white. There's no grey areas. We just need to, try and see what happens. I think it gives another potential out with spending money. Oh, we can't spend money because, this is happening, or we can't do this because we've lost X amount of sponsors. So again, it's the football club, and I think a lot of us, that's what we need to remember. We all care, whichever side of the fence you're on, we all care about this football club, and we want this football club to do well. And I think this is where it puts the doubts in. Like with Sean, I don't care if he goes to jail, leaves, does all these other things. I don't really care. All I care about is Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. Yeah,
I agree, mate. I agree. Look, and to that end, again, not to get into politics, because it's wherever you say, you're going to get people that will take the other side, even if they don't. But it doesn't matter, right? So I'm not going to talk about politics, but I do think that people that are, I mean, I've been accused on Twitter today, apparently because I'm not vehemently Levy out, or I haven't been vehemently Levy out the last 18 months that I apparently therefore support Joe Lewis. And I don't know where that came from, but it's not true. I don't think I've ever been a supporter of him. I've never said that anyone is a good guy. I've always made it clear in my videos that I think there's degrees of depravity, and I think that all billionaires probably, you don't get to become a billionaire unless you are willing to break a few eggs to make that omelette. And to me, what I would say is that people that do have a Levy out persuasion and would take any owner but him or but Joe Lewis will jump on this and say, like, you know, there's no difference, right? So let's go. It doesn't matter who the owner is, as long as they're going to come in and support the club, then you're always going to have a dirty owner. And to a degree, I completely agree. I've said it before. I think that if you're going to pick any particular different type of ownership, the one that you probably want the most is one that have bags of money. And that usually is, I mean, Chelsea are coming at it from a different angle with what Todd Boehly and his lot are doing with their private equity, but they, of course, are supported by third parties that also include sovereign wealth funds. So I think that a sovereign wealth fund, not that there's any left, or there's only a couple left now that would want to get involved in football potentially, but that if you can get one of them in and they have the incredible intelligence around accountancy and how to manipulate money, bend the rules without breaking them, set up, multi-club ownership models where you can divest your risk and increase your efficiencies of scale. By the way, I've got a video about multi-club ownership coming out next week. So I hope you'll keep a lookout for that. I'll go into a bit of detail around the benefits and the risks around multi-club ownership, especially under this new sovereign wealth kind of market that we're seeing ourselves in. Chelsea have just gone and bought Strasbourg. We're already seeing them buying players or potentially buying players and then loaning them straight to Strasbourg. It makes a mockery of this idea of conflicts of interest that UEFA put up. So we'll talk about that next week. But to me, sorry, I'm rambling. To me, I just feel like the argument around what sort of owner we should have, I think it becomes a little bit easier. Like, I don't think we have to necessarily debate the moralities or the ethical efforts of any of them. I think we have to shake hands with reality that if you're going to have an owner that's a billionaire, wherever they come from, whatever they have done to become wealthy, they are probably not clean. And consequently, you just want what's the best interests of Tottenham Hotspur. Joe Lewis and Daniel Levy have proven to me more than ever in the last 6 months since the FFP rules, or in the last year, since the FFP rules have moved to a system that's away from profitability and now based on revenue, that they're not adequately, appropriately prepared to move into this world. They're not ready to roll the dice and take that risk. And so I'm more keen than ever to see a massive divestment into new ownership structure, especially after things like today. What's your thoughts, Ranj?
Yeah, look, 100%. And I think, look, I know Sava says this all the time, two things can be right at the same time. So, for the people that are saying one thing, and me or Sean or Sava or anyone else that goes on and give their view, they can also be right. And it's not about being, oh well, you said this and you said that, like you said, Sean, with the whole, you're supporting them because of X, Y, and Z. It's kind of, it's nonsense. There will always be people that will try and stir it up. I just think, look, we just need to see how this plays out for Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. Give our opinions, and that's all we can do, right? We're not experts. We put our opinions out. And 9 times out of 10, we're either praised for them or we're criticised for them. So look, we're just fans like everyone else is. We're fortunate that we are. For those that are watching from abroad, we're fortunate enough that we can go to games. We've both got season tickets. It's not a case where with the prices going up, we can't go anymore. We're fortunate, and that's why we want to try and, because we're fortunate enough. We're allowed to, we can give you the information because we get to see it. We get a bit of information, and then that's it. That's all. We don't do this because, for this is not our jobs, right? For some people it is, but this is not our jobs. We do it to kind of get away, enjoy ourselves, meet people, and hope, and in the large part, get on with mainly everyone. So
yeah, in the large part, yeah, for sure.
So look, it is what it is. More's going to come out, I guess, in the next few days. All I care about is Tottenham Hotspur. So that's what it needs to be about. And I think that's maybe what we all need to think about, because we all tend to, let's just say, choose our path, and we can't move from one to the other. The one thing I'm upset about today is Emerson's not starting. So,
well, we're gonna look at this. We're gonna look at the team sheet in just a second, mate. But yeah, 100. I echo your sentiments there, mate, as well. Like, at the end of the day, like I say, I wake up this morning to a bunch of DMs from people taking pot shots at me. Whatever, I don't care. Like, it is what it is. But it's bonkers to think that I would support these things. But speaking of my mate, Joe Lewis is in the house. Please say I love you too, my man. I wish you'd been a little bit smarter with the way that you're giving out freebies. And where was my tip? You didn't send me any.
Where was our tips with our memberships and our season ticket renewals? Where was we exactly. Could have paid. You could have put the price up of the season tickets, but then you could have covered it by giving us a little tip.
little bit of insider, just a little nod, little wink of the gun. Wink of the gun. That's all you need, Joe. No, I appreciate the super chat, my man. Thank you very much. And I think you've come back in with a second one as well. Mr. Butler, you have been a great advocate for me. Any Nick in the past, please help us hire a good lawyer. You've got a good lawyer. You want to see what lawyer you have? Thank you again, my man. I don't know what your real name is, but I really appreciate it. You want to see these guys? This is the lawyers. That we spoke about the 84 partners that are in it. The capabilities of Skadden, Arps, Slate, Meager, and Flom are...
Someone said earlier it sounds like something out of Harry Potter.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, 100%. It's like a spell. I mean, these guys have got their legal hand over absolutely everything. I'll be honest. I've never had any interest in being a lawyer, but I would absolutely love to work, or I would have done in a previous life, to have worked for a company like this. The amount of information that must pass through their fax machine or their emails. They're into absolutely everything: mining, national security, political law, SEC reporting and compliance. I'm guessing that is exactly the area that they've currently been tapped up for. They're into sports law, Web3 and digital assets. Fascinating. Good luck to them. Good luck to Joe Lewis. Good luck to the authorities in getting justice. If justice is what it looks like it might be, then yeah, Joe Lewis, you've got away with one for a long time. Listen, I don't want to speculate, but the ridiculous level of obvious behavior with those text messages, it does reek like he's an amateur at insider trading. I'll be entirely honest. I wouldn't make those sorts of mistakes. And I've never even dabbled in insider trading, but I know at least what not to do. And that is not what to do. But listen, I hope that go on. Sorry, mate.
No. I just no, exactly. It's like you said, all of a sudden I get a tip from Danny Kirimanu that we're going to sign a player. Out of nowhere, I go and I wouldn't believe it anyway, because it's all nonsense from anyway. But he sends me that tip. I go and lump on a couple of grand at the bookies, and it's like, for what am I going to make? I'll probably make 500 quid. But it's just that's how Joe Lewis. He's probably sat there on his yacht. He's bored. They've come in and gone, Joe, we need a cost of living crisis. We need a bit of a pay rise. I'm not going to give you a pay rise.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that. That would come out of my pocket. That's not happening.
Does that come out of my pocket? I'm going to lend you the money. You're going to make 80,000, which is what you're asking me to pay you anyway. And then but then also on the side of that, I'm thinking, on however much money he's got in assets and everything else, surely the interest and everything else is making that up in a couple of 2 or 3 days or weeks or whatever. Do you know what I mean? So all of this is, because
to make 80 grand out of these little deals.
Yeah. And you see it when you're like, if you won the 135 million euro millions, the interest on that is 30 grand a day or something stupid invested in the right way. Well, he's got more than 137 million. So come on. This is why, like you said, it's so crazy to think he just woke up and, he's got, he's chucking out to lovers and a pilot and a girlfriend and fucking and the gardener, and
You know what's weird though? The weirdest part, and we'll end on this before I get to Mia's super chat. And then we've got 2 minutes, so I'm going to do the super chat. I'm going to end on the last note about Joe Lewis, and then I'm going to quickly show the team sheet before we then pivot to the next stream, guys. So you'll get redirected immediately. Just bear with us, and we're going to go straight into the actual game. Big up Mia. She says, "Big up, guys. Great balanced chat. I don't want Spurs to be affected by all of this, so let's hope that doesn't happen." Also, big up Bugsy, the superstar. She popped her head in through the door a minute ago just to say hello. I've already taken her out this morning, but it was early. She was a bit shocked by it. It was all a bit weird. But anyway, Mia, thank you so much for the super chat. If you want to come and join us for the preview of the game coming in a minute, just let me know. All you got to do is apologise and you can get back into the group. You know the rules.
A couple more that have just popped in, Sean.
Yeah. Oh, a couple more. Here we go. Jory as well. Thank you, Mia. Jory saying fraud, usury, ego has always been there to see. 100%, mate.
He's talking about you, Sean.
Yeah. And he'd be spot on. He's a smart man, Jory. He's a very smart man. Appreciate you, Jozza. Good to see you, mate. Thanks very much for your support. And also, Joe Lewis, the final thing you're going to say to me before I say something about you. Hello, Miss Mia. You have been recommended to me as a great media spokesperson to defend me. Would you be willing? I really need your help. Mia, I'll let you answer in the chat. Cheese Rim John Sean asking a woman for an apology. Brave, 100%.
Or stupid. Either or.
Listen, the last thing I'm going to say, guys, is this. Joe Lewis, the idea, remember, these indictments were from 2019 to 2021. The guy is 86 years old. I mean, he's giving out not just to his girlfriend and to a woman lover. I mean, I don't know how many lovers an 86-year-old has, but I mean, is there a reason why you have to do insider trading, allegedly, in order to compensate some girl for the pleasure of laying with an 86-year-old? I'll leave you with that thought, guys. Look, last thing. Let's get the team up so you can see it, shall we? Where do I go? Here we go. Here is the team, and we're gonna literally run it through, and then we're going to go and talk about it in the next video. We got Vicario in goal. We got Pedro Porro, no Emerson Royale for you, Nick. We got Romero, Davies, and Udoji, Sarr, Bissouma, Madison, Kulusevski, Kane, and Son. Does that look like a first team?
After Andy's words about Ben Davies the other day, yes. And my sincere worry is that if Kane does leave, Ben Davies will be our captain.
Yeah.
So look, I think that Andrew said, don't look into it. Obviously, they're going to change it at half time. I would expect that all the other players on the bench would come on, and there'll be a split half again. And then look, I mean, it should be an easy walk in the park, very high scoring game. But we'll soon find out we'll soon find out,
guys. We are going to literally end this stream. Hang around. We're going to be going straight into the next one, and I'm going to put the link out. So I think Rand, you're going to join me, right? You're going to hang on with me.
I can hang on for a bit, yeah.
Okay, cool. We've got an hour, so if anyone wants to jump on and have their talk, we're not going to talk about this. We're going to talk about Tottenham. This is done now for now. In summary, really disappointing, horrible PR, horrible reputational damage. Directly, I don't believe it impacts Tottenham. Indirectly, I think it absolutely could. I think Ranj made some great points around the commercial stuff. Certainly, investments might change in ideas around it. And look, let justice be served, I guess. Guys, thank you for the super chat. Oh, we've got another one just popped in before the end from Chris Hammond. Thank you very much, Chris, for the generous donation, mate. He says, so that's any top defenders coming in. So in comes Ryan Nelson and Ramon Vega. Top stuff, lads. Great chat. Chris, if you're going to hang around, listen, we'll pick this up on the next one because I've got to switch the stream right now. Well, I will start with this, but thank you very much for the super chat. We are going to go straight into the centre-backs conversation and talk about what we can expect to see. Guys, like the video on the way out. Hit the subscribe if you haven't already. And hit the notification bell and all that stuff. And also make sure you get over to Ranj's channel, the Shellside Spurs. I'll put that in the link as soon as I get a chance to. All right, guys, we're going to end it here. I'll see you in 3 minutes.